Unmute. John, can you unmute him?
Well, I'm waiting for this YouTube to come on. It's give me 1 second. It's directing me. I can just in a minute.
Okay.
He's got it now.
Is he unmuted?
He's unmuted now.
Okay.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Zoom portion of the Westmoreland City Council meeting for our regular meeting for May the 21st, 2020. We're coming to you as part of the virtual meeting for the Governor's Executive Order 16. We'll get the meeting started, and Keisha, I'll let you go ahead and call the roll first, and then we'll do the devotion and the pledge.
Tony Bennell.
Present.
Doug Brown.
Here.
Rita Carter.
Here.
David Leaf.
Here.
Jerry Kirkman.
Here.
Andrew Wilkerson.
Here.
Let the record show that all members are present. We have a quorum, and we will begin the meeting. If you would, please bow with me. Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. We thank you for watching over us and keeping us safe. We thank you for good health and good health of our community. Things have been really bad, but you have had your mighty hand upon us, and we just give you thanks for it today. We ask you, dear Lord, that you keep the council members close in your hand, the decisions that we'll be making tonight and later on in the meeting when we're discussing the budget. Help us have open minds and everything that we need to be sure that we're doing what is best for our citizens in our city in the future. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
liberty and
Justice
justice for all.
Okay, I don't have an agenda in front of me, so y'all going to have to kind of help me through this, but I'm guessing that the first item is our minutes from the April 16th meeting.
You got to adopt the agenda, Jerry.
Okay, let me see if I can find an agenda to go by, and y'all go ahead and be adopting that one.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. The agenda is pretty much self-written, as if this is a Zoom meeting. We will actually move forward on that with no vote. We may have some public comments. Keisha, do you have any of those?
No one emailed any in.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item will be the minutes from the April meeting. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the April 16th, 2020 meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the April 16th, 2000 meeting. Do we have any discussion? Ms. Keisha?
Wilkerson.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Leaf.
Yes.
Bennell.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is the minutes from the May 11th meeting.
I move we approve the minutes from May the 11th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the May 11th meeting. Do we have any discussion?
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
she states in her last sentence in the first paragraph that Mayor Kirkman called the meeting to order at 4:04 PM. And I think that was at 6 PM. She stated 6 in the first sentence.
Okay. Anyone else have a comment or a suggestion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes with that revision to it on the time of the start of the meeting, if everybody's okay with the rest of it.
Okay, I was thinking, but that, is that not the one where we started the meeting at 5 and then we started the budget discussion and work study after the special call meeting?
That's correct. It was 5 o'clock. You're right.
Okay, then there's another correction where it says it was called for 6 PM. So there's two there. They both should say 5.
Yeah, it was 5 o'clock last Monday, as I recall.
That is correct.
So I'll make that motion with the time changes to accept the minutes as read, with the time changes being made.
Thank you, Councilman Lee. Is that okay on the second?
Second.
Okay. Ms. Keisha, whenever you're ready.
Carter,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Fennel,
Yes.
Wilkerson. Yes. Lee.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. It looks like I've lost my Zoom feed. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
There you can see.
Do I have video?
You got video and
Video.
audio. We hear you, Mayor, and we see you.
Oh, very good, because all I have is the big word Zoom in front of me. So but first, I don't think we have anything on old business. On the new business, the first two items are
We've
the,
got to approve the financial report, Mr. Mayor.
oh, okay, thank you, David. Floor is open.
I'll make the motion to approve April 2, 2020 financial statement.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the financial statement. We're open for discussion on it. Hearing none, Ms. Keisha?
Brown,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Wilkerson. Yes. Fennel.
Yes.
Let the record show the motion carries unanimously. Are we ready for new business now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, first item I think is the budget. And the second item is to the ordinance for the tax rate. I'm not sure that you want to do a first reading tonight, but I'll leave that option open as to how you want to proceed in the meeting. It can be deferred and we can call a special call meeting, or we can determine you know, how we want to move forward.
I think we'll go ahead and do the first reading and get that over with. But
Okay, do you want to suspend this till the end of the meeting? Work on your budget at the special call budget study hearing and then come back and vote? Or you want to just do a first reading and
just do a first reading, and any changes will be made for the second reading.
Make a motion.
I'll make the motion to First reading on ordinance 052020-1.
I second that motion.
We have a motion and a second for ordinance number 052020-1, first reading of the budget for fiscal year 2021. Any discussion? Ms. Keisha?
Fennel,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Leaf,
Yes.
Wilkerson. Yes.
Let the record show that the motion carries unanimously for first reading. Next item is first reading of ordinance 052020-2 of setting the 2021 tax rate.
I make a motion to pass on first reading ordinance 052020-2, the 2021 tax rate.
Second.
Do you want to put an amount in that rate?
Is it
You can just use the
$1.13?
current rate if you want to.
Current rate.
Current rate.
It has
Yes.
that type. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Carter made that motion. Who made the second?
Fennel,
Thank you. We're open for discussion if anyone wants to discuss anything.
So has the county set their rate yet?
I don't know that they have, some of the other cities are discussing their budgets and some have 3 readings, so they may have rates that have been set and possibly voted on. Everyone is still, at this point, don't really know what is going to happen. So we're making adjustments, just like what the information that come from Mr. Isbell's office yesterday. So at this point, it's good to do the first reading, but we'll do the first reading, and before we can do the second reading, we have to have the public hearing, and it has to be advertised in the paper, I think, for 10 days.
Yeah, I believe, Mr. Mayor, that the county will adopt their tax rate at their June meeting. They usually do theirs. Theirs is by resolution, so it's just one reading for them. So, but this is good to go ahead and get first reading here. It's not a reappraisal year, so if you want to keep things the way they were, just keep the same tax rate.
Okay. Other discussion? Okay, Ms. Keisha?
Wilkerson,
Yes.
Fennel,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Leaf.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is first reading of ordinance 052020-3, an amendment to the city code. John, do you want to speak to this before we have a motion, or go ahead and get the motions? You're muted.
John?
Yeah, someone that make a motion to approve it, get a second, then we'll talk about it.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve on the first reading, ordinance 052020-1, city code amendment.
It's -3, David.
-3.
Second.
Okay, now we can discuss it. What
Okay,
this does, if you don't have it in front of you, I'll just read it to you because it's really straightforward. What the code currently says is business dealings except for the receipt of such compensation as may be lawfully provided for the performance of his municipal duties, it shall be unlawful for any municipal officer or employee to be privately interested in or to profit directly or indirectly from business dealings with the municipality. Okay, what we're adding here is another paragraph that says, nothing in this section shall preclude a spouse of an employee from participating in business transactions with the city where a sealed competitive bid system is used, provided that the employee does not have discretion in the selection of bids or specifications. And we all know why this is. This is a change so that a local business can bid on doing the equipping of our police cars. Apparently, they're quite a bit cheaper than other places, but because one of the spouses is employed by the city, they would be prohibited by the current law. So this phrase that we've added here is something that Mr. Bennell found having to do with school bids and principals and teachers, and whether or not you could be married to a principal or a teacher and actually buy things from the school system. So we just copied that language here to give the discretion when there's competitive sealed bids. That's the issue, and y'all can discuss it.
Okay, we're open for discussion.
Does that employee, looking at section 4-307 in business dealings, it mentions that any municipal officer or employee to be privately interested in or to profit directly or indirectly from businesses dealing with that municipality. To me, that I know that sets the stage for an individual, even though the spouse may be participating in business transactions with the city, that employee is indirectly profiting because they're married to that individual. Just playing devil's advocate here, but is that the wording that we have to go with, or does it need to say something different?
Yeah, that's the whole point of this. We have a situation where someone was hired in one of our departments whose wife owns a company that has done business with the city for many years.
Right.
Mr. Bennell and I have discussed this numerous times. This is his idea to open it up when there are competitive sealed bids that business in Westmoreland would not be disqualified. So, but you're right. I mean, it is different. I mean, the way it is now, they cannot do business with the city because the husband that works for one of the city's departments is indirectly benefited. There's no denying if you're married to someone, you're indirectly benefited. So that's the thing that you guys need to discuss and decide what you want to do with.
Okay, John, you also stated in there about sealed, it had to be sealed bids. I think they also do business for public works on just items that don't require a bid. So is that something you need to look at also?
You can always require sealed bids, and if it's something that that they want to do that, it's not that big a deal to have sealed bids. I would leave it this way. I think that if you just open it up to any situation where someone's making a few calls, you're going to be subject to criticism for that, I think. And I'll let Mr. Bennell speak to that. He's the proponent of the amendment. Mr. Bennell.
Well, I think we know the situation. He actually does two things for the city. He works on the police cars, equips them, and then his wife does leak checks, if I understand it right. So, and he's at a much better price than we can get anybody else to do it. So that's the reason I want to add that in to allow that to take place with and I guess on the seal, they could get I don't know how they do the bids. If you want to do a bid on the leak check, I mean, that could be an hourly rate that other companies would bid, that they would do it for so much an hour and they would bid so much an hour. So I think this will cover us.
You could have an annual contract for that, or even a 3-year contract for that, and put it out for competitive bid on the fixing of leaks. It's certainly something that could be bid, and I think that you're on a lot firmer ground as far as public perception if you stick with the sealed bids to allow this sort of an exception. That's just for what it's worth.
I agree.
Aaron, is Aaron on?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. Does do you not purchase material from them also?
Yes, ma'am. We can purchase meters and things like that from them at times. But I could get different bids on those if it, I mean, to make it legit.
Okay.
Well, I mean, like Mr. Bradley said, you can do the bids and then have a yearly contract or whatever, like you set your contract. But we need to make sure it's done by bids to cover us then for this.
Right.
Aaron, do they do leak detection for us, or is it mostly just purchasing parts and materials?
It's not the leak detecting kind of like what we normally have done. It's more of like a flow test. They flow test a whole entire line. The way that that'll indicate if we're having a leak down that line somewhere further down, that if we don't have a meter right there, what we can do is we can dig it up, and he has a machine that he can hook to it, and then it'll tell how many gallons is flowing through that pipe without us having to actually cut the pipe and install a meter. That way he can let us know if, we do possibly have a good leak down there. Say if the gallons per minute is a lot higher than it should be on just average tap usage and things like that. It's not like the leak detecting that we have come around and listen to the service lines and actually pinpoint a leak detection. He more or less just isolates it for us to where we don't have such a big area to search for.
Does he do it by the hour or by the job?
By the job, usually is how he has done it. But I would say that he could probably do it either way. I would just have to talk with him about that.
Okay, other discussion?
Well, we could go ahead and pass this on first reading, and if we need to critique it any for the second reading, we could, couldn't we, John?
Yes, ma'am. You can go ahead and pass it on first reading, and you can look into it and talk to Aaron about their processes for hiring these things to be done, and find out if it's something that can be done with the unit price, with sealed bids, or how you want to approach it. You got a month to make that decision before the next regular meeting in June. So yeah, you could certainly pass it on first reading and then think about it and study it.
Okay.
Okay, are we ready to vote? Ms. Keisha?
Brown,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Leith,
Yes.
Wilkerson,
Yes.
Fennel.
Yes.
Let the record show that the motion carries unanimously on first reading. The next item on the agenda, I had placed it on there to hire Jonathan Bellavia as a part-time evidence technician.
We skipped one.
There's one more, Mayor.
Policies and procedures, excuse me. Okay,
I need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the first reading of ordinance 052020-4, or the policy and procedure amendment.
Second.
Go ahead.
okay, a motion by Councilman Brown, a second by Councilwoman Wilkerson, I believe is correct.
Yes.
We're open for discussion.
John, would you like to read the change in it? Can't hear you. John?
Currently, there's language in the policies and procedures manual that an employee can be suspended with or without pay, depending on what action the council takes. What this does is it sort of makes the default position what we've been doing, is that when someone's been suspended, now we've had a lot of this lately. We didn't have it for years and years, but we've had 3 cases like this in the last 3 months, I guess. What this does is this puts the decision on whether or not the suspension is to be with pay or without pay on the council. If you take no action, it's going to be with pay. So let me just read it to you. When an employee is unable to effectively perform the duties of the employee's position due to an ongoing investigation, the employee may be placed on administrative leave without pay by the council, pending the outcome of the investigation. In the event the employee is determined eligible to return to duty at the conclusion of the investigation, the employee will be restored with back pay for hours missed if that employee is an hourly employee. If the employee is on salary, that employee would also receive back wages. And then this other sentence was already in there. The mayor or the mayor's designee may remove an employee from duty pending the outcome of an investigation. So the way this will work is if we've got a situation where a department head such as Aaron wanted to suspend someone, he could suspend them and they'd be suspended with pay until the council took the matter up. If it was something that needed more time, like maybe it was an ongoing criminal investigation, if the council wanted to wait and see what happened with the case, they could continue the employee either with or without pay. If you took no action, it'd be with pay. So the default position is going to be that when someone's suspended, it's going to be with pay until it comes before the council. Because with those revisions you did to the policy and procedure guide last year, I guess it was last year now, it makes the council's the only one that can really make that determination. And what Mr. Brown has done, he's taken this language that the first part I read, other than that last sentence, was pretty much straight out of Portland's policy and procedure. And I'll let Mr. Brown address that and why he has proposed this.
Yeah, so looking at Portland's policy and procedures manual, they had 2 pieces that were separated. One was administrative leave with pay, and then the other one was administrative leave without pay. And so what I tried to do was simplify it and create one that gives us the ability to suspend or take away someone's pay or have administrative leave without pay. So if the council decided to do that, that way every situation looked very similar. That way we wouldn't have to differentiate between whether we give someone pay because of a certain situation, and if another situation came up that was very similar, we would have to decide whether or not we would give that individual pay. And so to take that language out, I thought it would be better just to leave it the way that it is, that is proposed on this ordinance, and we'll let you guys talk about it from with that proposal on the table. So it's open now for you guys to think about that and see what you think.
One thing I would want to add to that is that the council, 2 members of the council or the mayor can always call a special meeting. So if you've got a situation where maybe somebody gets suspended the day after your regular meeting, you might want to have a special meeting so it doesn't go on for a month if it's a situation where you think that maybe they should not be drawing pay. So you've got some flexibility with it. As long as the council's got the ultimate decision making, though, I think what Mr. Brown is proposing makes sense.
Okay, so in a nutshell, the mayor or the department head can suspend, and it will be with pay until the council takes action on it.
That's correct. Under your policies and procedures manual, only the council can fire or hire. So I mean, all they can do is suspend.
That's the way it is right now.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But what this is going to do is going to allow the department head or the mayor to suspend if necessary without pay. And then if it's found later that that suspension don't hold up, then we will have to give them back pay. Or if the investigation turns out they're not guilty, then they get to come back to work, then they get back pay.
Now, this still puts that decision making, the without pay has to come from the council. This does not give the mayor or the department head the right to suspend someone without pay. That's why I'm saying that you might have a situation where 2 council members or the mayor might want to call a special meeting. If something pretty egregious happens that you feel like this person shouldn't be getting paid, you're going to want to have a special meeting, have the hearing, and make your determination then as to whether or not they should be with or without pay.
Okay.
The default position is with pay until because the way the policies and procedures manual is written, only the council can take away pay. The mayor and I have talked about this a lot. And of course, I've talked to Mr. Brown a little bit about it, but it's the way that is currently, as I understand it, the way it's currently written, the only ones that can take away pay are the council. I mean, it takes council action. Is that your understanding, Mayor?
Yes.
Well, we had two cases. We had three come to mind. Two of them were kind of short-lived. You know, we took care of it within a reasonable amount of time. And we had one that went on for 6 months. And I didn't really, I could understand with pay for a while, but going on 6 months, you're not getting anything for your money. It seemed like there ought to be a time limit. That it was no fault of ours. It just got caught up in the system.
Mr. Bell, I think that's the reason Mr. Brown proposed this, was because of that situation, so that the council could take a look at it and say, look, this may be 6 more months in the court system before it's resolved. We think that we need to do this without pay until there's a determination. I think that's what he's trying to do, is give the council that flexibility. Is that right, Mr. Brown?
That's correct, Mr. Bradley. Yeah, you know, if another incident occurred where there was a ongoing investigation, then we would want to be able to not put the taxpayers at burden for paying that individual's salary while their investigation is pending. And if that individual is found innocent, and then we can always go back and retrieve that individual's back pay. So in a way, this does not hurt anybody, but it saves the taxpayers money, so that if we have someone who has done wrongdoing, we can go ahead and fix that problem before going through a long process. As we all know, these processes, when someone's investigated, can go on for months and months. So we want to be able to answer and speak to that pretty quickly if something like this occurs again. Hopefully it won't, but we want to get this language in the policy and procedures manual that will give us the power to make a proper decision pretty quickly. And again, like Mr. Bradley mentioned, we more than likely, if something occurs and we're within a month or 3 weeks of a regular call meeting, we can go ahead and have a possible special call meeting to look into the situation. So hopefully this gives us the ability to save the taxpayers money and to make the right call if an event occurs such as it has in the past, or hopefully it won't, but if it does, we're prepared.
The idea is to make it very clear, it's explicit, that the council can make that decision even if the permanent decision hasn't been made about termination. That the council can decide that this is a situation that may take a while. We need this to be without pay, and if the employee is reinstated, they'll be with back pay. Is that correct, Mr. Brown?
Yes, sir. You said it well.
Okay, I have a quick question about that back pay. I want to just make sure I'm understanding. If we suspended them without pay and we let them go, they will not receive their back pay according to this, correct?
Say that again, please.
Okay, from the way it reads, in the event the employee is determined eligible to return to duty at the conclusion of the investigation, the employee will be restored with back pay for missed hours. So if we terminate them, they would not receive back pay.
That's correct.
Correct?
That's correct.
I wanted to make sure I understood that right.
Yeah. And that's to avoid the situation we've had a couple times recently, I think. And normally, if it's going to be a short period of time, you're going to always pay the employee till the council meeting if it's a week or two, unless it's something really, like if someone was caught stealing from the city or something like that, you might summarily try to dismiss them. But you've said it correctly, Ms. Wilkerson.
Is anyone else getting static when she speaks, or is it just me?
No, I am too.
You're muffled up, Chandra.
Well, all of you are muffled to me too, so I don't know.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, well, this is for a first reading, and we'll get a chance to look the policy over when we get it in ordinance form for everyone. So, Ms. Keisha, if you'll call the roll, please.
Leith,
Yes.
Fennel,
Yes.
Wilkerson,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Porter.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously on first reading. Now I'll try it again. The next item on the agenda was to hire Jonathan Bellavia as a part-time evidence technician. I think the chief has talked to some of the council members, and he is here with me. So I think he's wanting to add him in as a part-time officer. So that will be a discussion for the council members.
Do we need to get a motion first, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
I'll make the motion that we hired Mr. Bellavia, Jonathan Bellavia, as part-time evidence technician for the city of Westmoreland.
Like he wants to add officer to that also. He wants to be a part-time evidence technician and a part-time officer.
Okay, please add that to my motion.
Yes, sir. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Brown, a second by Councilman Bennell to hire Jonathan Bellavia as a part-time officer and evidence technician. We're open for discussion, and the chief is here to answer any questions you might have.
Just one question, Chief. What the conversation at one point I thought was for him to be full-time, and now it's part-time, and I'm okay with either one. But could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, sir, Mr. Brown. It is my hope to get him back as a full-time officer for the city, but I feel right now I'm in need for him to oversee my evidence room, which has got to be a spot filled, and bring him back as a part-time officer to help out. He is certified. Maybe bring him back in that role. Maybe 2 or 3 days a week we can utilize him in that. When I have an officer, it's maybe sick or short an officer, to bring him back in slowly and let him get reevaluated with things that's maybe changed since he's been gone. And my hope is to see how this goes, Mr. Brown, and then bring him up, recommend him to become a full-time officer with the city once again. That is my wish.
All right, thank you. And I know it also give you time to evaluate his performance in a smaller capacity if he's part-time, and then you can make your movement forward too. I can see that.
Yes, sir. It gives, like you just stated, Mr. Brown, it gives me time to reevaluate his performance, and if things for whatever reason may not work out, versus hiring him full-time right now, that gives us a better situation we can deal with on a part-time status. Yes, sir.
Chief Lant, let me ask, what's the rate of pay that you're bringing him in as?
Since he is a post-certified officer, our agreement is the same with Mr. Bellavia as it was with Mr. Amalfitano. Is $15.25 an hour.
Okay, why is that different from other part-time that are post-certified? They're only getting paid $14.50, I think.
Most of the other ones that's getting paid that is uncertified.
What about these officers that work for the county and these other jurisdictions? They're certified.
That was
But they're not.
agreement.
I think they're making $14.94, Ms. Freda.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've got 3 or 4 different multiple pay scales, and I've got some, I think 1450, 1474. I forget. I know we got multiple pay scales that when Ray Amalfitano stayed part-time, we left him at 15 and a quarter, and that's what was bringing Officer Bellavia back for 15 and a quarter. Because he's not only gonna be doing those 2 things, he's gonna be involved in 2 or 3 more different positions that he's gonna be helping out in also. So he's not just coming back as a part-time officer to take calls. He's gonna be doing some extra things, in which really needs to be compensated a little bit more for, since he's gonna be playing 2 or 3 different roles.
Any other
My
questions?
concern is, it's just not following the normal path that we have for part-time. And I don't disagree with you of him doing other duties, but we haven't really set that precedent as a pay scale.
If y'all don't feel like that is appropriate, I'll sign another paper lowering their pay, but I was kind of man of my word. What I tell somebody or we agree on, I like to stick to that, and that's my reasoning for the 1525 versus the other. Like I said, I've seen multiple pay rates in there, but that's my reason for the
Chief,
2 that stayed at 1525 an hour.
Chief, does this employee, will they have any other benefits? Will they have any city benefits, insurance, or anything like that?
No, sir, not
So with no
while
benefits?
no benefits either, Mr. Bradley. No, sir. Until their 90 days is up.
If they're part-time, they still won't get benefits.
That is correct. Right. So
I thought it was always in the past that the council set the pay rate, not the pay for whoever we're hiring.
That is correct.
So whoever made the motion probably needs to state that in the motion, what we're gonna pay.
And that's probably where we've gotten into trouble a lot of times, because there are different rates that are paid to these officers, and we had so many different part-time officers and some certified and non-certified. I think it got lost in the shuffle. I actually just noticed it a couple of weeks ago of an officer that became certified, and I was looking at it and wondering why it wasn't at 1525, but it was 1494. And when I pulled my list to verify it, then a lot of the other part-time officers were 1494 also. But of the ones that were certified that are coming on full time, we've always started them a minimum of 1525. But you are correct. The council sets the pay.
What was his rate of pay prior to leaving voluntarily with the city of Westmoreland?
1725. He was getting paid the same as sergeant's pay, Mr. Brown.
And is he the only part-time, or would he be the only part-time officer?
No, sir. No, sir.
And so your other part-time officers, what do they get paid per hour?
Let's see.
Or do you recall?
I don't recall, Doug. I just know,
Doug, if you
Mr.
got
Amalfitano
you
got,
got your council package there with you, Doug.
I got it.
It's in that package.
I see it. Yes. I
There's-
forgot it was here. What, would you just for my sake, name off the part-time officers, Chief Lap?
Jeffrey Lambert, Jeffrey Lambert, Curtis McKelvey.
no, sir. I've got, Ray Amalfitano.
Okay.
If Officer Bellavia gets approved, he'll be part-time. I've got Jeff Lambert is uncertified. I've got Chris Lopper. I've got Dan Leaner and Elizabeth Leaner. I think it's Chris Hardin. He's a SRO officer. He works a day or two here and there.
Okay.
I think that's it, Doug, but I'm not for sure. But I think I named them all off.
So they had $14.94. The ones you mentioned at $14.94. Is that true, Keisha? You got a list there?
They are, except for Hardin
Dan is not certified. Leah's is.
and Ray. They're both at 15.
The reason I brought this up is when we had our meeting over at school back, what was that, a couple of years now, where we addressed just the police scale and gave them that $2 a raise at that time. We broke it out on a full-time certified officer, a part-time officer, certified or non-certified. As long as they were classified as part-time, that was the same scale. That's what I was going on. And at that time, it was set at $14.50, but there might have been the 3% increase that last year, whenever it was, on them.
Brent Simmons, he all part-time?
Yes, sir, he is, Mr. Leaf. I'm sorry. Yes, sir, CJ is.
He is not certified though.
He's not certified, no, sir.
Okay, I was actually thinking that when an officer became certified, that they got the raise from the $14.94 up to $15.25. So I may be mistaken about that because like I said, one of the officers that I noticed last week when I was doing payroll as a certified officer that was at $14.94. It doesn't seem much of an incentive to become certified if you get certified and you still don't get any kind of raise out of it.
Well, at the time when we set that scale, like I said before, we had a lot of officers that were certified that was working part-time. Remember, we had, I'm just losing their names, but they work for the city of Gallatin, they work for Sumner County, and they work for the city of Portland. And they have to be post-certified, but yet they were with us as part-time officers, and they were at that $14.50 rate that we set at that one special meeting in February of that year for the police department. I mean, I don't have a problem with this, but it just needs to be consistent across the board when a pay rate is changed that's different from someone else's in the same category.
I agree. I'm just, as y'all know, just been in this position and not familiar with the previous, what they was getting paid and stuff, but I agree, we need to be on the same page where we'll know what to do, where we won't mess up about someone's pay. So, but I'll leave that to y'all. Y'all just, I know that was our agreement based on that reason, but like I said, that is y'all's decision as a council. I just need to know something where it's set in stone where I can not change from one time to another and where we can keep it straight across the board.
Can I make a suggestion, please, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, I understand what the vice mayor is saying. There may be some pay inequities here, and I would suggest that you and the chief get together and take a look at those and make sure that people that are similarly situated, certified, non-certified, years of experience, whatever, are being compensated similarly. So you don't have any inequities in the pay scale. I think everybody on the council would agree with that. And if somebody needs to get a quarter of an hour raise to make it fair, give them a quarter hour raise. So that's just my suggestion, because if you don't have that consistency, there's always there are morale problems that are created by that, and just other issues. So that'd be my suggestion, that before the next council meeting, that the two of you get together, and if there's some adjustments that need to be made, we can make them in this coming budget. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
I agree with that statement 100%. And I think in the best interest to move forward on this motion, looking at Chris Harden and Ray Alfamatano, their rate is also at $15.25. They are both certified officers, and they're also part-time. So in order to be consistent with the current personnel that Chief Flatt has, setting the pay rate at $15.25 an hour for this hire of Jonathan Bellavia would be appropriate in my opinion. So if I need to make an addendum to that motion, I can certainly do that, since I have the motion on the floor.
So if we put these at $15.25, then that's putting them at the same pay that a certified full-time officer comes in at, correct?
That is correct. That is the bottom of the scale. And right now on your part-time people, you have non-certified part-time that's making $19.94 and certified part-time that is making $19.94. So we do need to look at that. It needs to be some clarification there, because certified officers should not be making what non-certified officers are.
$14.94, Mr. Mayor, not
Yeah,
19.
19. I don't think.
$14.94. Wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, these pay scales, it's all over the board, 1571, 14, they're just, I agree. We need to go ahead and take care tonight and get this out of the way, and then reevaluate where we are.
Yes.
We need classes, and if they in that class, that's what they get paid.
This is the time to do it, as you're getting into your budget. This is the perfect time to visit this issue.
Yes, it is.
You want to add that to your motion, Doug?
Yes, I'll be glad to add that to the motion, that Jonathan Bellavia would be hired as a part-time evidence technician and police officer at the rate of pay of $15.25 per hour.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and the second. It's been amended to include the price per hour. If there's no other discussion, then Ms. Keisha?
Fleet,
Yes.
Wilkerson,
Yes.
Porter,
Yes.
Bennell,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Let the record reflect that the motion carries unanimously. That is everything that is on the agenda to the best of my recollection. Am I missing anything?
That's it. That's all of it.
Okay, we'll have a motion to adjourn this meeting, and then we'll move into our budget work study hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned, and thank everyone for tuning in and listening to us. When we left our last budget hearing, I'll call this one, I don't know if I actually call it to order, but we are in a work study session to study our budget for the fiscal year 2021. Well, last time we left off, we were getting ready for sanitation. We've had some new developments and things since then. So if we want to pick those up, this is your meeting. So ever how you want to start with it, we'll move forward with it.
So Mayor, I just have a question. Did you want this also to be recorded and be live on YouTube?
John, that's quite okay. It can go out on YouTube, be recorded. It doesn't make any difference to me. You're the one that controls there, and
Well, I had forgotten that this was going to be added. It wasn't on the agenda, of course, because it was something separate. But we'll just let it keep on playing if that's the will of the council. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. Nobody's watching it probably anyway, maybe 3 or 4 people. But this way it'll be archived. It'll be on YouTube, and anybody that wants to watch it later can. So everybody act nice.
okay. And if you have something else you need to do, John, I'll give you a call when we end so you can stop it.
That sounds good to me. Y'all have fun.
Okay, thank you, John.
And I'm gonna step away for a minute, but y'all carry on.
Okay. The chief is here and he is going to request an increase in salary for his personnel. Would you like for him to speak while he is here, or do you want to pick that up a little bit later? I know that Miss Frida has gotten numbers together for 2 different scales, $1 an hour and for 50 cents an hour. I believe that's correct. Okay, several are still muted, so
I'm okay with us jumping into that, Mr. Mayor, if we want to. I know we just got off the topic of talking about salaries, and I know Ms. Carter has some things that she wanted to propose, so I think it's a good time to jump into that.
Well, I would propose, let's go ahead through the budget and then let's do the salaries at the end, but that's just one voice.
I'm fine with either one. I'm good with either way.
okay.
I didn't know if Chief Flat had something else to take care of or not. That's my concern.
Well, he's given us the numbers, comparing them to other cities around. So I think we can evaluate those numbers and later on in the meeting.
I just didn't want to, I didn't want to leave and y'all have some questions, but I sent each and every one of y'all a email this afternoon of the 5 or 6 departments around us and what they was getting paid the hour and their incentives that they was getting paid for their officers. But I was gonna be available to answer any call or answer any questions. But if y'all just want to look over this email that I'll send each one of you, and if you have any questions, just call me there at the office, or we'll meet and discuss it. Whatever y'all want to do, I'm up to please and satisfy y'all. I can hang around, or we can speak about this another day.
Well, I appreciate what you done. I had some old numbers, but I wanted to see some new numbers. So I appreciate you putting together these new numbers.
It was a short notice, Mr. Bennell, but I hope that everything is explanatory to.
No, I think we've got a good comparison here that we can look at.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we will take it up from the sanitation budget. and start at that point. I think that's where we left off right after other funds. So sanitation department, 43200 on page number 5.
No, I think just you. No, just you.
The one, looking down through the list, the one line item that kind of concerned me, if it's, we got 10,000 in the budget, that's line 332, equipment repairs. And maybe we've done the repairs this past year, and we won't have near as much the coming year. But 10,000 would be quite low compared to where we already are this year.
You said that was line item 332.
Yes, sir.
Okay, mine says truck repairs.
We're on 43,200 sanitation department.
Correct.
Mine says equipment repairs.
Yeah, mine says equipment repairs. Page 5.
Um,
Well, it's on page 6, technically, on mine.
that line item goes on to page 6. But under line item 332, mine says truck repairs. So
Are you sure you're not looking at the state street aid section?
No, that's where we did an amendment because of the truck repairs, and I think she changed it on our financial statement to truck repair, but on our budget worksheet, it says equipment repair.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
oh, okay.
Well, okay, let's start with the revenues. Under the garbage collection, when the mayor and Keisha and myself was going over the numbers that Jerry had put together, that's where we came up with these numbers, because he had presented the budget, then us three went over it, and we made just minor changes from his numbers. But if you take year to date in our financial statement right now through April, the monthly average is, I lost my number there. Just a minute. We've taken in 148,480 for 10 months. That's a monthly average of 14,848 times 12 on that. You're at 178,000, a little over. That's where that 178,000 came from. And that stays consistent pretty much each month with our flat rate. And only thing that varies on that would be the number of customers. And it doesn't vary that much. You gain some, you lose some.
Honestly, I'm surprised that our amount for line 295 is coming in less than what we projected, because we actually expected those costs to increase. Also, excuse me, Doug, go ahead.
If you take our monthly average through April, we're even going to be less than the 62,000. But I think the 62 is a good number. And the reason I think we thought it was going to be more is because we had been going to Carthage some to unload, and they are cheaper than Gallatin. But due to several factors, the length of time, the road conditions and all, and the resource authorities grounds condition, I think the mayor decided to just have him to go to Gallatin, which would be a little bit more expensive on the actual bill. But when you factor in the drive time and the repair on the truck, we had to increase it. But it is not coming in as much as what we had thought last year, I think.
Aaron, do you have any thoughts on anything that you see in it? 945 included 7,000 for equipment. That's basically for your flippers. I didn't separate that out as a, you know, a capital like expense for you. It's just, I just put it under equipment.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
As far as what I'm looking at, I don't see any anything that I have any questions on. I think everything looks pretty good. I mean, I would like to try to get on the equipment for the flippers. I would like to try to get that up a little bit to about, it'd be about 10.5, an extra $3,500. So that way that I could put 2 on the new truck that we use all the time, and put 1 on the old truck that we don't use as much as often. That way it would have 1 on it, but that would be the truck that we would be phasing out eventually in the years to come. Hopefully it'll last a while, but hopefully we wouldn't, you know, have to hang on to it for as long, so I wouldn't spend as much money on it. But I would like to try to up that a little bit if we could, just to be able to get the 2 flippers on the new truck.
So change that to 10,000.
It'd be 10.5. Yes, ma'am. 10,500.
Then that reserve account, Keisha, the 632 would have to be lowered by 3,500. That would become 5315. The bottom line wouldn't change, just that amount would change. And Tony, back to your question that you talked about on the truck repairs / equipment repairs. The year before that, our truck repair came in at just right at $7,000. And this year is the reason for it, like you said, is that major repair to the truck.
Right.
And hopefully we won't have that every year. So I think upping it just the 5,000, I think that would be enough.
Yeah. We actually had to redo both trash trucks, didn't we? Some major stuff on them. Is that right, Aaron? Or just one?
Yes, sir. We did have major repairs done to both of them.
Okay, okay. So that number should be all right. It should be in good shape then.
Yes, hopefully. I'm crossing my
What was that
fingers
final?
and praying.
What was that final cost, Aaron? Close to $30,000 in repairs?
Yes, sir. I believe it was actually a little over 30,000.
34.
On both trucks.
34,000.
34. That's what I was thinking. It was just a little over 30. Which is 34 is not really a little over, but or not if it's coming out of my banking account. It's not, especially.
Well, you notice that this year I started the garbage truck fund back up line 954 and put 10,000 to start in there. So next year we'll see how things are going. It may be time for us to trade and be looking at getting the new truck, but we're looking at we paid our last truck off last year. The year before that, our payments were $34,830 a month or a year.
I'm really hoping that we could get, if we could continue to put the garbage truck fund money back, I'm hoping that maybe we could at least get 2 to 5 years out of both of these trucks at least. I'm hoping, if not more. I mean, if they continue to do good, and we're not having a lot of trouble with them, which I'm hoping doesn't happen, maybe we can continue to build that up, and that way when time does come, we'll have a fairly good down payment.
That is our hope and dream.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on the sanitation budget? We did, as you can see, up for the uniforms this year. Everything else is pretty much about the same. The drug testing and medical expense, we increased that. Everything's pretty much self-explanatory. Everyone okay with that one?
I am.
I'm good.
Okay. Did we discuss street aid last time? I don't have any indications that we did.
No, sir.
Okay. Give you a minute to look over that and see what you think. And I know Miss Frida has been inquiring about doing some paving and things, so we can discuss that.
Hey, Jerry, you remember at the meeting we attended in Gallatin, they expected their gas tax to be down about 25%.
Yes, sir.
That was their, and so if so the 77 may be a little high if that holds true, and I don't know.
That's definitely not 25%, is it?
No.
Based on our monthly average, we're going to come in a little over budgeted, a little over 81,000 this year if it holds up at the numbers we're getting now. Okay, we have not on street paving, 228. We have not used that 16,413 from last year. Jerry, did we already add that into that 46,420 number?
I'm trying to remember. I thought we did, but
Maybe we did. I could, because I was trying to figure out how we come up with the 46,420. Aaron, do you think we'll have to buy salt this year? I know you still got the same stockpile.
No, ma'am, I don't believe we will. We used one truckload this year, and it's actually, I didn't even use a full truckload, I don't believe, on what little bit of snow we had that one day. And we should be, unless it just comes several blizzards, we should be in good shape on salt.
It would
and
be
that
okay.
was one.
What's left over is going to be okay, usable, and what would be
Yes,
okay?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So we could cut that $7,000 in.
Yes, sir. I believe we can.
That's a good number, like 2,000, or just to have a little, in case we have a bad winter.
that was
think that-
pretty much a minimum load, wasn't it, Aaron?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. That's one load.
Yeah.
You
Well,
have to do full load, don't you, Aaron?
yeah, from them. Yes, ma'am.
It's usually, well, in the past, it's been 5,000. I'm sure it's gone up too, like
Yes.
everything else.
Yeah, and you can go for a lower amount, but you have to pay more for it, so.
Right.
Yeah, you have to pay more for the freight and everything else. You still have to pay for the freight the same, but they charge
Okay.
you more the less you buy.
So we need 7,000 there or zero.
I mean, I don't think that we'll need any salt unless it just really, really changes. I've not seen us put a dent in that salt since I've worked here, unless this winter just really turns around from the past 3 or 4. I believe that we'll be plenty fine this winter.
It doesn't snow anymore in Tennessee.
That's what I was thinking. Quit that when I got old enough to actually sled and stuff real good.
Playing on the side of caution here, should we just leave it in there in case something does happen? It's not, we're not hurting for nothing here, are we?
Other than paving. I mean,
Just as soon as we take it out, we're gonna have a massive blizzard the last month.
yeah, exactly.
You all want that, you get out of school.
Well,
I'd say leave it in there, and if we see that we're not going to need it, as long as our bottom line don't go over, we could use that if we did some street paving. We could use that additional 7,000.
That's kind of what I was thinking. If there was any way that maybe after the winter,
Mhm.
and we still had it in there, maybe we could use it toward some more paving.
Yeah, good idea.
Speaking of paving, what is our update on paving the Heart of Summer Drive that we passed?
I've gotten a couple companies that were supposed to be getting some sealed bids in here. I'm not sure if they ever came in. I haven't seen them. Jerry, have you seen anything from any paving companies as far as anything that's came in? Because I told them to either address it to me or you.
I haven't seen anything.
Okay. I've been in contact with some, actually 5 different paving companies, and they're supposed to be getting me some sealed bids on what they would do it for per ton laid is how I'm trying to get the bids in. So that way everybody's bidding it consistently.
Scotty's, I believe it was Scotty's Construction,
Uh-huh.
had a Kentucky telephone number, called yesterday and wanted to know where we stood on everything. He asked for your phone number. He'd lost it. And the way he talked, he'd submitted something to you 2 to 3 weeks ago.
I haven't seen it. I will get back in touch with them. I'll be in touch with them this week and see if I can't find out some numbers or at least get some information to where he can get it in.
I think they're
seems like
in town. I think they're
Yeah.
in town, so it's probably.
yeah, they're doing some paving around town in a couple spots.
Okay. I haven't heard anything from anyone except that Mr. Bennell and I was at that meeting the other day, and they were telling how bad things were going to be for our county highway department. So, and I know they had conveyed to you that they weren't going to be able to do any paving this year.
Yes,
Not for the city anyway.
correct. Yes, they said that because of everything going on with the virus and everything, that they weren't going to be able to fit any extra into their paving and stuff to do anything for the city. So that's why I had started trying to get some bids from other places.
Very good. Maybe they'll get back with you pretty quick.
I hope so.
Ms. Fred, about how much did we use out of the street maintenance budget last year for street maintenance? Do you have that page open?
No. Oh, last year? Okay.
Well, for our current year, I was looking to see if that 16.5 could go a lot toward helping pave.
Our current year, we're at 5,882, which is not much at all compared to the 16.5 budgeted.
We need to make sure that all of that funding gets captured so we can put all of it into a single account to do paving with that we have left over for fund balance.
Well, could we move some of that up to paving then? Some of that 16.5? Are you going to be doing much more potholes and whatever else, Aaron, that you need to do for street maintenance?
I am fixing to be ordering another load of the patch and mix because we're running low on it. I just seen that actually yesterday. And
About how much is that?
oh Lord, off the top of my head, to be honest with you, I don't know. I would have to go back in my emails and check. I can't remember.
$2,000 or $3,000?
It's going to be, I would say 3 to 4, right around in there.
Let's go on the high number of 4.
Okay.
That brings our year to date up to close to 10,000.
So that would leave around 6,000, 6,500.
Mm-hmm.
I think we would be able to move that safely.
How's everybody else feel to lowering that to 10 and put the 6,500 up in street paving?
Sounds good to me.
That puts
good
you
with
at
that.
52,920, is that correct?
Pardon me?
Put you up to 50, is it 52,920 for street paving then? You take out 6,500?
52,920, yes.
If you was going to look at purchasing that mini excavator, at least a third of that should come out of this department. And because you want to do paving, that is not something I'm sure that you want to do. It will be used probably more on water lines than it will for a sewer. But sewer is, you're not going to have a lot to play with on that one, simply because we're still waiting for numbers from a revolving loan fund about our new plant. So it's just throwing an idea out there for you. Usually a third of it would come out of water, a third from sewer, and a third from street aid. Because it'd be a piece of equipment that would be used on the streets.
Right.
So does 945 need to be increased? Or would that be a separate line item? The mini excavator.
Well, if you take it, it's pretty much going to come straight out of your paving.
Make a choice there of paving or excavator, it kind of sounds like, or not as much paving.
You said a track hole would be 50,000 plus 5 for a trailer, is that right, Aaron?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
That's 5,500. If you divide that by 3 ways, you're
That's
talking about
55,000.
5,000.
55,000. I was putting in 55,000. I said it wrong.
That's all right.
That puts you at 18,333. Say 18,400 for each department. If you split it 3 ways, like Jerry was talking about.
If you do that, if we took it from street paving, that would take street paving down.
Well, we got, look at your reserve account, 632.
Okay.
We some of it.
So what's the recommendation?
Aaron, did you get other quotes on this machine? I know all of them you got were state contract, but was that pretty much about the going rate?
Yes, sir. It would be a little under 50,000. But the bids, all the quotes that I've gotten have been anywhere. The highest was, I think Caterpillar was around 55. And then, the one that I was actually looking at was a Bobcat, and it was the lowest bid. And I think it was 40. Caterpillar was around 57.8. And then, the one that I was actually looking at was a Bobcat, and it was the lowest bid. And I think it was 40. Caterpillar was around 57.8. And then, the one that I was actually.
Did y'all lose him?
Well, as
Are
he
you
was
there?
speaking, his mouth wasn't moving.
Am I back now? It
Yeah,
just
you're
kept
back.
playing over and over.
You're back.
Okay. I'm sorry about that. but yes, it is just a little under 50 would be the one that I'm looking at. As far as on the quotes that I've gotten, just right under 50 is the lower end ones as far as the quote wise.
Well, let me ask you this, because we have, does that come with the trailer?
No,
Okay.
it would be, we would have to purchase a trailer as well.
Okay, let me ask you this then, and Mr. Mayor, you may have to answer this, or Mr. Bradley. Can we got two big trailers up there that we hardly ever use, right?
Yes, sir.
Can one of those trailers be traded in on this purchase?
I'm not sure about that. I know that I have heard before that if not both of the trailers were purchased with grant money, and I'm not sure if we've had them long enough to be able to sell them or trade them in. So I couldn't answer that myself.
Neither
Kind of tricky
one
when you
is
start
large
trading
enough.
in.
Do what, Mr. Bradley?
I'm just gonna say it's tricky when you start talking about trading in things, even if they're not subject to the grant, because you get involved with the competitive bidding laws.
I see.
You almost got to bid it out and say, this is what we've got. What will you give us? And we give you this. So it's kind of tricky when you start trading in equipment like that.
I did talk to the trailer company and asked them if they took trade-ins, just their trailers, and they said that they did do trade-ins as long as it had a title and everything. But now if we tried to trade it in toward any of the equipment, I don't know if they would do that or how that would work.
Sounds to me like the best thing to do, we don't need it, is put it on, is sell it.
Yeah.
Sell it.
Yeah.
I agree.
Ms. Free,
Sell
you
it
were
and-
there when that disaster grant was issued. Do you remember the stipulations that was in it?
I don't remember it. I do know it was the year of 2010. So that's been 10 years.
Yeah,
And the backhoe and the trailer was backhoe in one of the trailers to pull that particular backhoe was through their grant process. Now, the other trailer he's talking about, we bought one years ago straight out.
okay. Is that particular trailer, the large one for the backhoe, is it too large for the excavator?
It'd be real hard to load an excavator on that trailer.
Okay.
Possibility, real easy to turn over or tip over loading on that type of trailer.
Well, and the hardest thing would be pulling it. The whole purpose of getting the F-350 and getting a smaller excavator would be to where somebody without CDLs could pull it to the job site and things like that. So we didn't have to simply have the backhoe and the dump truck to pull the backhoe with. If we pull that big trailer, we have to pull it with the dump truck because the other trucks won't. It's just too big of a trailer.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that one being included in the disaster grant when it was first written. I guess it's 2008, 2007, whenever it started. So
2010, Mayor.
no, that was, when was it actually issued out though?
2010.
Okay.
It was after the
I
flood.
was still a recorder when they started writing it, so.
No, it was after, the one I'm speaking of was after the flood, which was 2010. wasn't it?
Okay, it was part of the same grant. It got tabled and then it was brought back.
Oh, okay.
It took a 2 or 3 year hiatus and then came back. So the flood probably helped them bring it back. So things are tricky when you get items on grants. Like I said, I don't know if there's a 10-year limit on it, or I actually heard one time you had to get permission from the issuer of the grant to get rid of it at any time. So I know that's a situation you have to use with kid gloves. So, but I guess the decision now that the council will have to make is if you're going to purchase the excavator, and if so, where those funds are going to come from. I know that in the past, we have, like the dump truck, we put money back for 3 to possibly 4 years for the dump truck and built it up. So that would be an option also.
Well, it could come out of the water and sewer department, couldn't it? Or just water?
It would be a good chunk, but we can look at it when we get to the water. It's coming up pretty close next.
That'd be the main thing you'd use it for, wouldn't it, Aaron? With water.
Yes, sir.
But David, where I was getting my numbers of 18.4 was based on 55,000 divided by 3. So if you're gonna lower the percentage for streets, then we could lower the amount. If you just want to put this on hold till we get through with water and see.
Well, it would be used more in water and sewer. Only thing to be used for the streets would be ditching, in my opinion. Unless there's something else I'm missing.
That would be mainly what it'd be used for, would be water. And we would probably use it doing some ditching as well.
What about tile, Aaron? Could you use that to install tile with?
Yes, I believe we could.
I didn't know if it was too small for that or not.
Really, until we tried, I couldn't tell you, to be honest, but I believe we could. Just kind of judging off of what little bit I've ran one, I believe it would be all right.
Yeah, as long as you didn't have to go too deep to
Right.
install tile.
Right.
Yeah, it'll install tile.
Okay.
Well, let me say this thought right here. If we use $9,000 out of the line item reserve, 632 for the track hole in streets, and then divide the other portion out in water and sewer, that'd be 23,000 for each one of those funds. If you want to think about that as we go on to water and sewer. That's the
I
thought.
would recommend that you not do that with sewer, simply because unless you want to do a rate increase, your repairs, because we put extra money in there for so many repairs because of the condition of the system,
Okay.
it's going to put you very low starting depreciation.
Okay.
Just my opinion on it.
Do you think sewer could carry 9,000 just like the streets would? And then it'd be 37 left for water?
You might could do that. Actually, my feeling on it is if you were going to do this, take part of that reserve and continue to put it in your street paving line item up there, 228, to increase that and purchase the excavator and trailer out of water.
Okay. All right, then if we take 9,000 out of line item 632, that leaves it to 333, and that would bring street paving line 228 up to 61, right? 61,920. And your bottom line stay the same. Y'all agreeing with me?
Sounds good.
How much did you say comes out of reserve?
The 9,000.
Okay, so it just leave you the $333.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I think it's best if we try to keep that bottom line the same and not
Right.
stay as balanced as we can here.
Yeah, because like we were saying, we can hope and wish for that 77,500, but we don't know for sure if that's what we're going to have or not.
Okay. So does that take care of streets if we go with these numbers to begin with?
Yes.
Sounds
Keisha, you
good.
got all this? Keisha?
You're muted.
Okay, want to move into water now? The secrets in the water and sewer fund lie in the depreciation. So just for the council's thoughts.
With Clayton and Wilson, you got the sewer sales the same you had last year. You think that might increase some?
I believe that sales will increase simply because there are more homes that have been built in the area. And we will have more water sales because of the extension of the Harrison Lane and
Raid coats.
Rape Coats road extensions.
We'll be roughly getting, I believe it's going to be roughly around 30 taps is what the contractor was talking about.
Look like you upped the water sales some.
Aaron, did you get clarification on those water taps? Were they getting free taps out there?
Yes, they are doing the LMI on those. Whatever, whatever the county approved, I guess they had to go through all the paperwork and everything. Those are the ones that'll be getting it.
Those numbers was calculated in with the total grant. So I mean, the county's figured that in.
I thought it was interesting today. I had a call from a real estate agent that wanted to know the price of a tap. And when I told her the cost of a tap, then she wanted to argue that, or bring up the thought that it was in the city. And I said, no, we haven't laid any new line in the city. It's outside the city. And then she wanted a free tap. So. Now I did on line 216, put $3,000 in there to help with the water department in case they need any more radios. And I think Aaron said that I believe he told me that you actually had enough radios now. So that could be dropped if you need to.
I think we're probably going to have to get, if our old radios won't work when we swap over, when everything changes over, which I'm still not sure if they will or they won't for sure. I've kind of heard both ways a little bit from depending on which communications person you talk to. But if not, we may have to use a little bit of that to get a couple handhelds for the guys.
Okay, the last that I heard was that the Public Works Department was not going to the new system, that we would have to maintain that old system. But your radio and Chris's radio both have the frequency where you can contact the police department if
Yes, sir.
necessary.
Yes, sir.
Now, Councilman Ben will come up with an excellent it's called a man down alarm, and it's about $2,000 a piece. Best I can remember. I've got the paperwork here in a stack, but that would be really good for us to put at least one, if not two, in water and at least one in the sewer. But your on-call person really needs one when they're out by themselves, and
Right.
the sewer plant person needs one when they're there by themselves.
Yes, I think that'd be a good idea. And if our old radios will work, then we will be fine as far as radios wise, because we had just purchased I believe it was 3 or 4 newer ones, which would be about a year and a half ago now, 2 years ago. So, and they're still in good working order and everything. So yes, we could take some of that. Sorry.
That's okay. Did you just say the new radios is not going to work for Public Works?
That's what I've been told. Only the police department and the fire department.
What are we going to do with these extra radios that we've already paid for?
They're actually in use right now, correct, Aaron?
Yes, sir. We're actually using them, and they're working off of our old frequency. But when the new digital frequency comes out for the police department and the fire department, it's only for emergency personnel, is my understanding. Now, we could possibly sell some of these back to the police department or something. The ones that are in our trucks, the ones that we took out of our trucks, we actually still have those. We kept everything that was taken out of the vehicles. If the police department needed them, because we've got the 4 in the trucks now, and I mean, if it would benefit the police department and the city as well, I mean, we could go back with the old ones in the trucks if need be, since they're not going to work on the digital anyways.
Yeah, because it looked like we spent out of water $11,320 for those radios, and out of sewer $56.30.
And we weren't informed that they wouldn't carry over until they had installed them, and the guy come to program them, and he advised Aaron that we would not be going to the new frequencies.
We have 4 of the truck radios, and we have 4 of the handhelds. Mine is the only one that has the police department frequency on it, and it's actually the only one that will be able to work on the digital whenever all of this changeover happens.
Are you the only one? The handheld, Aaron, will work?
Yes, sir. My handheld is the only one that'll work on the police frequency. Mine and Chris's, I'm sorry. But in my department, mine is the only one.
Are you the only one allowed to use it? Can our on-call person use that radio at night?
Yes, I always keep it on my desk in my office, and they would be able to use it if they get called out in the middle of the night.
Okay, good.
Hey, Mayor, I got that quote on the, from Or Safety. One of the units is $1,245. So it's a little less than we thought.
That includes the unit and the software and programming.
Yes, sir. Right, that's all of it. Yes, sir.
That's much better than. But that would just be put under equipment or something like that. So you can carry on.
So where are we, Frida?
Well, you're looking over the expenditure line items. We didn't adjust revenues any, did we? Or do you want to up the sewer sales?
Well, I think they're gonna go up some. With the houses being built and the 2 factories.
What are y'all's thoughts?
830. I don't know how the pricing is, but I think I would kick it up a little bit.
I know I'm constantly having people call and ask about building lots that they're inquiring about here in town. There's not many left, and people are pretty much just about fighting over them. I had one real estate agent the other day told me that they're looking for anything in this area to purchase and remodel or to build a house on because of Gallatin, Hendersonville area is expanding so much that they're pushing this way and trying to find anything in this area that they can to grab up and to build on and remodel and things of that nature.
I'm like Tony Clayton Homes. If they're on target, they'll be adding like 150 employees out there.
Okay, so you want to increase it to the 830?
Let's see what we're averaging out already, Jerry, just a second.
Okay.
Well, if we keep up our average the rest of this year, we're going to be at 840,000 this year. That's 20,000 over our budget of 820.
So is 840 a better number?
Well, that's based on this year without the added
Right.
user.
This is water. Right, we're talking water.
No, he was talking about sewer sales.
Something that you might want to think about. I don't know the school system, if it doesn't open back up because of all this, may have an impact on what we sell and things also. Because I know they buy a lot of water and
Surely by then they'll be ready to go.
I pray.
Somebody
All
give me
right.
a number.
I need somebody else's opinion. At this current year, we're right at 840. That's without any extra added customers.
Sounds good.
That's a good conservative number.
I'm okay with 840.
Okay, as we're going down the expense on our water, line item 353, water bills. Now, I know that's a shot in the dark there, but last fiscal year, we only paid out about 522,000 for water bills. The average this year is
$535.
huh? What are you looking at?
I was taking the numbers.
It's gonna be right at 541 approximately. So would it or would it not be a good idea to lower that a little bit?
Yes.
Jerry, what do you think?
I'm okay with lowering it. We've gotten a lot of lines fixed and the leaks are down. They're looking good. So that is money savings.
575? How does that sound? Or 580? I don't want to go too low.
575 sounds good to me.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything from anyone about an increase, so hopefully things are stabilized and doing good.
And with our monetary from the state being lifted, we don't have to go up there.
Sound like that new factory coming to Gallatin is gonna redo their water system and everything, their water plant.
Well, we're limited now. The new 5-year permit limits us to 750,000 per day in Westmoreland now.
This is a new contract with Gallatin or?
It was the permit from the Corps of Engineers for withdrawal from the basin for Gallatin to sell to us.
Okay, I'm with you.
I had thought we were at 1 million gallons per day, but the contract actually read 750,000. Aaron, did you, while we're looking at these numbers, did you hear any more from this tank inspection company that we talked about at the work study a couple months back?
I have emailed them, and it was right around the time that everything started happening with the COVID shutdowns and everything. And I haven't heard anything back as far. He was supposed to get back in contact with me when things let up there with them and they could actually get out and do more inspections and things. And I haven't heard anything back, but I will check into it and just see, because just looking at them from the ground, I really think that we need to try to pursue this. If I was really hoping to have a number before we went through all this budget and everything. I was hoping, that's why I was trying to get on it at that time. But then with everything that happened, it just kind of put a dampener in everybody.
Okay. I didn't know, I hadn't heard anything, but of you being in
Yes, sir.
touch with them, so. So did we decide on the 575 for that line?
Yes.
So,
Okay. That almost got by your excavator.
Are you doing less water samples than you used to, Aaron? I noticed that number is down quite a bit.
No, sir. Honestly, I was just looking at that myself. I don't know how it's down as much as it is, because I feel like we're doing more.
Okay.
Maybe it's just because I'm a part in more of it since I have my license, but no, we're still doing the same amount every month.
But that dam inspection, is that, because they've had those two dams break up in Michigan, I think. Is that a requirement, the government have you do that ever so often? I have no idea.
Every 2 years.
So we're up this year then.
Yeah, every other year.
Okay. So we good on water?
Is that 30,000 going to get a vehicle on state contract, Aaron?
Yes, sir. It would get replace one of the F-150s we have. Yes, sir.
Okay. Under 945, machinery and equipment, that's probably where we need to put this excavator or put a separate line item in for it. If you want to go with that right now.
If I'm right, upping our sewer sales to 20,000 and then dropping our water bills number, that gives the 55,000. And that was what you said, correct, Aaron?
Yes, ma'am.
So we just need to add in a line item for that on water and for sewer. And
You're right, Chandra. So do we put 35,000 in water and 20,000 in sewer? Or do we put more in water?
I would do the higher amount on water.
You'll use
Yeah.
it more.
That'd be 35,000. No, wait a minute. You're up in sewer. Oh, wait a minute. I've got some numbers wrong here.
Does that number look okay for water sales? Do we need to up it also? It was up to quite a bit, but does it need to go more?
Water sales.
Mhm. Have it at 1.2 million.
Well, the average for this current year we're working on water sales is going to come in a little bit over 1,300,000. And we're going to get some new water customers.
About 1.3 million, just round it off.
Okay.
You think it'd come to 700,000 worth, Frida?
Do what?
Do you think it'll come to, well, not 700,000, 70,000? Or you said 1.3, didn't you?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. That's just upping it 20,000. Right?
Right.
So the revenues, the total revenues for water and sewer would be up 40,000 because you got 20 extra in sewer and 20 extra in water. Is that right? Am I figuring that right?
Sounds right.
So what's the total? What's the number you got total?
2,217,200.
Okay.
Okay, now on the expense. We gained 35,000 when we lowered our water bill. I'm thinking out loud here, y'all. That's 35,000 we got. Then we increased water sales by 20,000. There's the full amount for the track hole.
Did we just take it all from water?
Jerry, you think we need to take some out of sewer?
Let's kind of circle around through sewer. You can leave it like that and take it from water now if you want to, and take from some sewers. We'll circle around and see what it looks like when we get to the numbers.
Okay.
Of course, all the numbers are going to change when we start talking salaries. So. So we want to do, how much did you say, Frida? 35,000 from water?
No, what I was saying was, we lost 35,000 on the water bill. We lowered it by 35,000, but we increased the water sales by 20. So that gave us that gave us a whole total of 55,000 for water. Right?
Yes. So you're saying you want to take it all from water?
No, I'm not saying, I'm saying we would have enough, but
Okay,
But can we?
yeah,
sure.
because you were talking about how on the sewer that was going to be more expense than the water, basically.
Yeah, and you're correct.
Do we want to add a new line item for that or incorporate it into machinery and equipment? Let's put it in machinery and equipment and hold down the line item numbers and just know that that's what it's for. That would make that 60,000, correct?
Correct.
Right.
55 for the piece of equipment and 5,000 for just general machinery and equipment. Or you think we need to make a separate line item, Keisha?
I'm good with whatever y'all want to do.
I think that would be all right, just leaving that one line item.
Am I correct that no, I haven't, I misfigured on the sales with that, with the bills.
We're on the sewer department now. We're looking at those numbers.
I was still trying to total up the tally on the water before we moved
Water.
ahead, but you can go ahead.
No, let's get your numbers right.
Okay, Keisha, are you putting them in there where you have them calculated?
No, I'm not updating the spreadsheet. I'm just writing on it.
Okay.
I've got 1,373,500. That's a total.
For water
For water.
only. Yes.
Right.
And the total water expense would be $1,373,500.
Correct.
Because we took away 35,000 and we added 55,000. Okay.
Okay. Okay, ready to move to sewer.
Anybody see anything? The items 640, planning, design, sewer maintenance. I guess that's something we'll be paying for some time. At 40.
Two more years at least.
Okay.
It was 5-year term on the note.
Okay. So item 947, let's see, did we buy a pump in this year's budget and we're gonna buy another one in the next year's budget? Is that correct? Is that right, Aaron?
Correct. I'm sure we'll probably have to have one, but I would really like to get one and have it on hand as a backup.
Okay.
So we don't have as much downtime as we did this year.
So are you saying you need to up that to buy 2 pumps with?
It would probably be smart.
And I understand they're not the same pumps. They don't interchange from one station to the other, correct?
We have 4 stations. 2 of them have the same pumps as each other. So I have 2 stations that I could possibly swap a pump out, but that's only if it's not getting really flooded. If we're having a lot of rain, it's pretty much going to be almost shooting yourself in the foot, I guess the best way I can think to say it. If you pull a pump out of one of them while it's a lot of rain. But yes, we did. We could, in emergency situation, we could pull a pump out of. We have 2 stations that have the same pumps. If I'm making sense.
Yeah.
1 and 3 have the same pumps, and 2 and 4 have identical pumps, correct?
2 and 3 and 1 and 4.
2 and 3 and 1 and 4.
Yes,
okay,
sir.
And it's number 3 that you're operating on 1 pump now?
We have 2 pumps in there. We just replaced one of them with a new pump.
Okay, the new pump has come in then?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And while we were waiting on the new pump to come in, we realized that how bad the other pump that we have there is getting worn out because it's really pumping at a low capacity. It was struggling to keep up with just one pump. When we replaced it and put the new pump in there, it's keeping up by itself.
Okay, that's a $35,000 item.
So what are we saying to up that line item 947 to?
You're looking
You're
at
saying 70,000.
70, yes.
Hmm. We're gonna be dipping into our reserve here, guys.
I mean, as of right now, we have all the pumps are in working order. My recommendation is to purchase one to have on standby.
And that's what that 35,000. What's he doing?
His phone died. Hold on just a second.
Sorry, guys. My recommendation is to purchase one to have on standby. If we're able to do that and have enough in there to purchase another one down the road in case it ever goes out, I mean, I think that would be smart, but at least I would at least like to purchase the one to have on standby, you know, have it on hand, I guess, more or less, so we don't have as much downtime.
We've already got that in there at 35,000.
Right. And if we had to, if it became an emergency and we had to, we could pull a pump from somewhere else, from one of the other stations and share it if we had to in an emergency.
If the grant comes through and the lift stations are rehab, is there money that's going to be in that for any new pumps?
Not that I'm aware of. What the grant money that we had worked on, to my understanding, is going to be to change over part of Station 2 over to Gravity and add in force main pumps to pump it directly to the treatment plant instead of going to the vacuum stations.
Okay, but I thought there was supposed to be some money in there for rehabbing the lift station itself too.
There may be. I do remember some talk about that, but
Yeah, because he was going to install VFDs and things like that to help lengthen the life. And I'm not sure what all was involved in it, but I know it was quite a bit of lift station rehab.
right. And I do remember talking about that some, but I'm not sure exactly how they wrote it up. I know because we talked about, Bryant had talked about doing it a few different ways. And I'm not going to say that it wasn't some in there for that, but I know the majority of it was going to be going toward swapping over from vacuum to Gravity.
Okay. I know it's close to $600,000 total, so it ought to go a long way toward helping us out.
I hope so. We sure need it.
Okay, you'll notice also down 988 is the sewer portion for that grant match that goes with the 83,000 from the state. If we get that, should we not get that, then that 29,000 just remains in the budget as a non-spendable item that you can transfer to another line item or use it. And also, I put it in to help get it started, 975 for the purchase of putting some money back for a sludge truck, because that's going to have to happen in the future.
So even with the new plant, we'll need a sludge truck.
Hopefully we won't need one as bad if they get that press installed in it. It won't be quite as much, but yes, at this time we still have that, and we'll start the budget with it, and we'll have another year now to look at that and decide what we do before the end of next year, when we start this process again.
Jerry, under line item, engineering service, 259. We've got 10,000, same as last year. So same as the current year we're working in. And we've only spent, I lost my place. We've only spent 1,800 out of this year's budget. What do you see us using a big portion of that for?
It's just very basically as the new plant comes online, if there's additional cost for engineering services for anything that's going to be put in that, because you may have to engineer a road to get into this thing before it's all over with. Right now, the industrial board, we're going to have to discuss with them a way to get material in and out and get something down on paper there. So there may be some engineering services. You're welcome to cut it. That's no problem, but it's just been there and it's, been used in the past. It's just happened that this year it hasn't been used very much. Everything has been under part of a sewer project.
Well, if we had to use it because of the new sewer plant, would that not be part of the loan?
No, this is actually would be separate engineering services from that. And it would be like if Aaron called for an engineer to come out and look at some sewer pits and do a study, something like that. It is where,
Yeah.
where this would should be used, put it that way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I understand that, but what you was referring to the sewer plant, the new sewer plant, but any engineering cost there is part of the contract process.
Yeah, for the plan itself, yes.
Yes.
There again, if you want to cut that, there's no problem. It's best guess estimates of what we have, and you can do other things with it. I mean, you could always put it down under more repairs.
Well, what I was getting at, once we had that additional pump in here, it's making that 70,000. We're going to have to be taking 15,000 from that reserve account to get it to balance.
With what Aaron just said about he's got the new pump in and he's ordering the next one for a backup. If he has this new pump for a backup, or even if he installed it in one of the two stations, if the other stations are in good shape, and that's a question for Aaron, I don't see putting back that 35,000 extra at this point.
That's what I thought.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And if worse comes to worse, like we did this year, we could do a budget amendment and take it from the fund balance.
And you could
I don't want-
actually, if that was the only item that was a problem, you could pull it from your reserve account. And we just had so many things happening this year, and the comptroller was wanting us to make sure we done budget amendments. So that kind of initiated it a little bit more.
So are we going to leave it at 35 or take it to 70?
I would like to leave it like it is.
I like 35.
Okay.
Because if we don't, we're going to take that. I don't like to show that reserve under $100,000, and you would be putting it under 100,000.
Yeah, that reserve needs to stay pretty strong, simply because they're going to be looking at our financials for the new plant. And not only that, that's also your depreciation that we're putting back.
I don't see any problems with all the others line items to me.
Okay, that one pretty much is staying the same then, correct?
The expense, yes. As it stands right now, with the total of water and sewer, we've got $20,000 that we can use without changing any of our reserve.
Okay. You ready to go back to general fund now and start picking it back up again?
I think so.
Okay. The letter that I received from Mr. Isbell yesterday kind of threw a snag into what we had. We were looking pretty decent to that point, so we'll get that snag taken care of, and then we'll start on salaries. So we need to add a line in, or we may have one there and I've just missed it, for reappraisal.
We have had in the past, but I guess since we hadn't used it, they took it out. but we have had a line item for reappraisals before. So, like my email said, with the changes we made last meeting time, we were short 17,975. Plus now the 12,700 for this reappraisal, making 30,675 we've got to come up with before we even consider salaries. Is that the way y'all see it? Keisha?
Yes, ma'am. What did you
Okay.
say?
I said, when we left it from our last meeting, we were
Oh, yes,
short.
I heard all that. I thought
Okay,
you
we were
asked me a
short.
different question.
Now I'm asking you, do you agree with me?
Yes.
Had you put in the changes before and got a new sheet out?
Let's see. I've got it somewhere. I've got 1683,520 as the receipts. For the total.
Okay, and your total expenditures at what you got?
1701,495.
That's right. So that made it 17,975 till we got the reappraisal. Jerry, wonder why they're not getting any grant any longer for that.
My favorite saying is, and you've heard it many times in the past few years, what the government give, the government can take away. So,
Whew, okay.
that happened one time under Ricky's administration when Ricky Woodard was mayor. They pulled off their state-funded tax, and the city of Westmoreland really suffered that year. And it took about 3 years before it came back.
Okay. So before we ever start on any salaries, we've got to come up with 30,675 to balance the general fund as it stands right now.
Okay, we'll go ahead and add that in for the reappraisal that you 12,800 or 700, excuse me.
I said 7, yeah. Because our total is 12,688.30. So I just rounded it up to 12,700.
So, one place we could look is the fire engine fund. It went from 5,000 to 25,000.
I have been worried about this, doing over this, and scratching my head and trying to make ends meet. And I didn't see, other than that, I didn't see any place that we could cut or even any revenues we could increase. I think we've got them increased or decreased as far as we can go. So the other day I called John Poole, our auditor, and I said, John, I need some advice. Here's what we've got on our general fund. And have you got any suggestions? And I told him what our numbers was being short without any salary increases at all. And the first thing that came to his mind, he pulled the audit. And on page 16 of the general fund for the general, it's got general fund, state street, solid waste, and drug fund. It's got our fund balance for year end. Last year, the year end in 2019, June 2019, we had a surplus of 214,752 that went into our fund balance, which we already had 637,949, making our fund balance at the end of the year at 887,701. He says, you're talking less than $50,000 here. That was the 30,000, that 675 that we just came up with. He says what some of the other cities are having to do because of the downfall in revenues is having to take it from their fund balance if it comes right down to it. He says with you having that much in your fund balance and the amount that you're needing is less than the 50,000 or 75,000, he says you're not going to be hurting at all if you take that money from the fund balance. Now that was his response to me when I sought him out for help. I couldn't come up with any more revenue, and I couldn't decrease expenditures except for the fire engine fund that Tony just talked about. So that was his suggestion as an auditor. And I'm throwing that out to you all for your information now.
I want to call it a rainy day fund. This is a rainy day.
Okay, thanks, John.
I remember we had $5,000 in for sidewalks. We talked about that. You know, what was that for? You might could get a little there, and I don't know.
Yeah, if you take 20,000 from that fire engine fund, that leaves you with a deficit of 10,675. And like you said, you've got in the other funds, sidewalks, you've got some of that money, but we can go through and start whittling away at it if you wish. Now, if you're going to consider giving the raises and things, you might want to go ahead and be figuring those amounts so you know what kind of real numbers that you're looking at. But you have that, and then there's some other items, some of the radio expense and things like that we can go back and cut, and maybe other items through it that can be cut. You just tighten your belt.
What, we gonna build a handicap ramp on the other building down there with that sidewalk fund?
That was what was discussed.
Okay.
Yes. And I, for one, think we need to do that. If we did it at the other end of town, then this end of town needs it as well.
I agree. That is a needed item.
Yeah.
I mean, before we built the new one that we put in down by the food bank, which that's where it needed to go to assist them, we already had 2 ramps. One up there at the old Mike's store, which is the senior citizen now, and one there kind of in front of the florist. Isn't that where it is?
Mm-hmm.
So there was access to the food bank if you wanted to go up that far, then go down the sidewalk. But we don't have any access to the upper end of the opposite side of Austin P for those buildings. So I think we need to do that myself.
Yep. I like the rainy day fund idea.
Yeah,
John says it's raining.
Yeah.
More ways than one.
Just for what it's worth, Hendersonville's got like,
All the way through June.
I was gonna say, for what it's worth, Hendersonville's got like almost a $60 million budget. And we do well if we end up with $4 million in our general fund. Percentage wise, you guys are way ahead of that. I mean, you know, the amount you've got in your general fund at the end of the year is, you're in really sound position, you know, financially, it seems to me like.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with spending a little bit of that this year. And, you know, you'll recover it in the years to come. But this is, as Mr. Lee said, this is a rainy day, you know, just to share that with you, because everybody gets so caught up on how much you got left at the end of the year and your fund balance. And, you know, a lot of people think you need to have 10% of your operating budget or 15% or whatever. You're way above that. You know, you've got 800 and something $1,000 in the bank. Is that what I just heard?
Right.
887 fund balance.
That's way over 60% of your budget. I mean, it will not hurt you, in my opinion, based on 33 years of experience, to spend a little bit of that money this year and then try to, you know, build it back up in the years to come, just for what it's worth.
Well, that was Mr. Poole's recommendation. So I've shot it out there to you all. Now y'all can go with it.
Well, I'm
So
there.
what do we-
I'm with it.
what do we do to make that happen? How do you explain it to me? I'm not an accountant.
You just appropriate some of that money. It's still a balanced budget. You just, like, if you want to take $200,000 out of your general fund, that is a revenue item in your budget. 200,000 from the general fund. And, you know, most cities do that frequently. And I know you've been very conservative with your budgets and not having to do that, but if there's ever a time where it makes sense, I think this is the time.
Yep.
We had the extra $200,000. I'd like to pave the streets.
Ain't that the truth?
Me too.
Well, I mean, I know he just shot that out there as a number. I'd hate to take that much, but Tony, what you were saying, how you would make it, see, look in your revenues under general government. See that 1 year of not in the year budget year 1920, we took 8,400 out of the fund balance at that time. And she just adds it to the fund, to the revenues. And whatever, if we went this route, whatever amount that we chose to use out of fund balance, it would become that line item number right there. Is everybody following me?
Yes.
Yes.
Doug, are you going to sleep?
No, I'm good. I'm listening to that idea and I love it.
Okay. Chandra?
I'm good.
But I am going to sleep, yes.
I can only see, with me on the phone, I can only see who's talking. I don't have the whole picture. So I don't know if you're asleep.
3 hours here, so.
I think we just need to figure out how much we're gonna need and let's get it.
Okay, you're gonna leave the fire engine at the 25,000?
Yeah,
I think we should.
eventually we're gonna need a new fire engine.
Okay. So fund balance would need to fund 30,675. Is that what everybody has?
As of right now.
And I think this is a good, when we get to it, for the police department and the employees also, all the employees, I think this is a good time to give them a pretty good raise.
Okay, Frida put together some good numbers for us to look at.
She did.
All we have to do is add them in.
Well, now, if you want to go with the amounts that I come up with, now, it can be calculated at different amounts.
But what you put together was across the board raise, either $1.50.
That's correct.
And of course, we all know our biggest challenge is in the police department, attracting policemen. Because if you look at the list that the chief put together, you can see we don't come close to any of them. Well, close. We might be in 75 cents, but they definitely need to be on the high end of the race.
We're just going to say something. This is an opportunity for Westmoreland to gain a little bit on these other cities, because most cities this year are not looking at any pay raises at all. You know, the county's looking at a 0 increase budget. Hendersonville's not looking at pay raises. I don't think Portland's looking at any pay raises. So, you know, if you could bump it up just a little bit, it would help you a little bit in your competitive situation with these other cities. I mean, it's an unusual time to get a pay raise, but, you know, every little bit helps. And your biggest problem, I think we all know your biggest problem's in the police department.
Yes, I agree.
Just
Right.
And if we can afford it, I'd like to stick with that dollar raise for them and the other employees also.
So you want $1 across the board?
I do.
That's quite a bit of an increase in what we'd have to pull from the fund balance then to cover some of this.
But like Mr. Bradley says, we've got it there, and this is perfect opportunity to do it. It's not gonna hurt.
If you got your email in front of you, Chandra, where I did a summary of each department?
I do, and I've added up what we're already needing, the 30,675. And when I did just the 50-cent raise, I come up with needing close to 59,000 to do all that.
And you're talking on the general fund only, right?
No, I was talking full thing, but
Now, the sanitation, streets, and water and sewer, we can work that out.
I know they're separate, but I'm just saying that's still a lot of money we've got to find somewhere. Just throwing that.
Yeah, but you got to break it down by each department.
I
I'm going to make the recommendation that Keisha put all these new numbers in the spreadsheet for the budget and include that raise that David was talking about, and let us look at it. Then we'll know exactly what we have to do as far as it's not going to be that much out of the you know, when you compare, we're already looking at 30,000, doing 34 more thousand on the other for general fund, and then sanitation, we can just go back in and tweak those numbers. Street.
While you're there on sanitation, Jerry, we've got $5,315 in reserve. So we would still have some reserve if we pulled all of sanitation increase out of reserve.
Okay.
Sanitation would be,
Streets is the only one I'm worried about. You just have to take it maybe back out of your paving.
yeah.
Water and sewer both, you should be able to do okay there.
Well, we've got $20,000 there.
I'm like Mr. Mayor, if we get it on a spreadsheet and let's look at it, I'd like to see a new spreadsheet anyway, because I scribbled all over mine and I forgot to use a pencil instead of a pen.
Yeah, we're looking at the general fund being, right at 60, roughly 65, 60, right at 66,000. That you would be taking out if we stayed with this budget from fund balance.
It would be 65,044 to be exact.
And that's not going to hurt us at all, I don't think.
According to John and Mr. Poole, it won't.
One other source of revenue you may have, and the federal government keeps looking at things to help local government. You might get a little bit of money from the federal government. You know, you might get 10 or 15,000 there that would help. Who knows? That's certainly a possibility.
Okay, sanitation, we would have enough in reserve to cover it. And like Jerry said, on the streets, we would just have to take that from our street paving, which I'm not happy about that, but, and then water and sewer, we've got an extra 20,000 that we can play on. That is more than enough to take care of your water and sewer increases. And still have money to put in some more back in reserve in water and sewer. Is everybody following me?
Yep.
Yes.
Or like Mr. Bradley said, this is the opportunity time to do it. If we wanted to increase the paving, you've got, which this is not a whole lot, but in street, we've got 78,415 in the fund balance in the rainy day fund.
Well, no, we need to do some, we got some streets that are in bad shape. Real bad shape.
Yeah, it's really going to hurt us that Miss Harden can't help us out on it, because that saved us all the labor. We just paid for the materials.
Yep.
That's right.
And it might be where they get caught up and can help us by the time we get ready to do this paving. I don't know.
Well,
That's my thought.
If Mr. Bennell will confirm it, the way they talk, they're going to have a tough time this year.
Correct.
Talk.
Okay, I guess, go ahead.
Sorry, Brock was telling me that, which works for the county. He's actually the one that I was dealing with besides Judy. He said that he had kind of looked at some of the prices of the paving companies, and that what they were going to have to charge us and what the other paving companies were going to charge us wasn't going to be very much difference. If that helps any as far as making a decision on whether to pave more roads or not.
Well, we're going to have to. That's pretty much the bottom line, and we'll just have to do it as a sealed bid and open them up and see who's got the best prices, and make sure that with the specifications, we're talking apples to apples. You know, like you said, we're doing it per ton, so it just makes a difference if you put it down a ½ inch or a 1 inch, how far it'll go.
Right.
So, if everyone's in agreement, then we'll have Keisha put this in a new spreadsheet, and we'll get it sent out before the work study. I guess we need to discuss of the work study. Or are we going to do another Zoom meeting for the next work study? What is that, June the 4th?
Yes, sir. June the 4th.
Okay, do you want to do a Zoom work study, or do you want to go back in-house at that point?
I vote in-house. If you want to take a vote.
I vote Zoom.
I'm for in-house myself.
Yeah, me too.
I know that we've started the planning and zoning meetings back to the council chambers. So, you know, if we can spread out and heed to the guidelines, I think we could probably manage to go back to the meeting chambers.
When I said in-house, I meant my house.
You better make that clear.
I meant council chambers. What do you mean, Jerry?
Okay. Well, I'm definitely for the council chamber myself. I think when we can discuss the items that are before us, it's a lot easier. This has been a nice format, but As you can tell, it's kind of tough for me to keep everything separated out. I'm organized when I go to a meeting, but here at the house, I haven't made copies of things. I've run out of ink and run out of paper, and so I'm not getting a lot of the stuff that I normally have in front of me. But one thing we do need to discuss is if it's going to make, and no more than it is, I don't think it's going to make a big difference. We need to get the certified officers on a pay scale, a rate, and the non-certified officers on a separate rate also. If you're certified and you've been to school and you've got met the stipulations, every other position in the city, we reward the employee for that. So this should be no different, especially when we're talking our officers. And we actually have certified officers that are drawing that lower rate. So that needs to be looked at and specified when we do our new budget. And I may even put that on the work study agenda for us to discuss before the budget even becomes or happens. But we can wait till July 1 to do that, but we need to put that on the front burner.
Jerry, as you're speaking on that, when I was doing my analysis of each department, in the police department, I took our current full-time officers' rate of pay and calculated. And then on part-time, I used 2 part-time people at a rate of $15.25. I didn't use the 14 times 40 hours a week. Now the other officers, I did it based on 43 hours a week, okay? And the part-time, I used 2 part-time full pay 40 hours a week in this number that you see reflected in the, well, you don't got police department broken out. Police department by itself is on the dollar raise, it's $22,048. And that's up in the part-time officers to 1625.
Okay, and like we were saying, when you compare those to what the other cities have, then this is our chance to move up.
And that would put, well, the new full-time officers that have just started, that's not over their probationary period, their rate of pay was $15.25. Well, if you do the dollar, that's going to increase them to $16.25. All right, looking at the email from Garrett on the other cities, Red Bull and Springs is at $16.25. White House is at 16, so that would put us a quarter over White House. Lafayette is $15.90, so that would put us at 35 cents more than Lafayette. Now, to me, I don't think we can compare to Hendersonville and Gallatin, nor Sumner County, because we're not comparing apples to apples there. So when I did the budget, I mean, the numbers, I was figuring the part-time at that extra rate at $15.25 instead of the $14.94. And the reason you've got more part-time, you got more than 2 part-time officers, but they don't work, all of them don't work a full 40 hours. So they're just covering shifts. So when you break it down, I think if you put in numbers for 2 part-time officers at each one of them 40 hours, that covers all the extra shifts for that the full-time is off. And I may have a little cushion in there too.
Okay, did you continue to keep it at 9 officers, eight officers and the chief?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 officers without a chief. Well, I'm counting Garrett. I'm counting his position, okay?
Right.
I'm not counting him as a chief in this. I'm counting him as another officer. And
Right,
if
but
he
we
were
need
to
to,
get
we need
chief,
to go ahead and fund for that position is what I'm getting at. We had voted as a council to have 10 officers a few months back. They've never filled that position. So when I started considering the budget, I stayed with 9 officers and not 10 because he had never been able to hire one. So I was just inquiring, were you still at the 9 officers or 8 officers and the chief? Or were you going for the 9 officers plus the chief?
I didn't put any chief number in this because in the 417,630 that you already had calculated in the police department, you already had the chief's money in there. The only thing we'd have to do is up it, depending on what rate we set for the chief. It might not change any at all to what Ray was making. This 417,60, this 417,630 that you've got in the budget now includes a chief and 9
That is
officers.
correct.
Okay.
Chief and 8 officers.
Okay.
And that's the reason I was asking. I didn't know if your numbers were calculated on 10 or 9.
9
Okay,
plus a chief.
that would be 10.
Yeah.
9 plus the chief would be 10.
Uh-huh. But I didn't, like I said, in this 22,000 that I've got down for the police department, that does not have the chief's anything about the chief, because the chief is already in this 417,630. I'm just increasing this in our budget.
Okay.
Because of what Ray was making, he's going to pretty well take care of what we start the new officer at, or we may have to add a little more.
Yeah,
Am I
you
making any
advertised
sense?
the range at 48 to 52.
And Ray was right at 48, wasn't he?
That's correct.
And like I said, I may have a little cushion in these part-time officers. I don't know that we use 80 hours a week for full-time, part-time officers, but if not, we've got that little cushion there.
Okay.
Now, the department heads will be the $1 an hour raise also?
Yes, sir. That's in my calculations, is what I've done.
Okay. Well, one thing we talked about last time, under public service, 43,000, we got animal control, and we just got a flat salary in there. We don't have Social Security and other benefits. So, and we talked about, was we going to split that or leave it there? I don't know what we need to do with that.
You've already got her Social Security in that 30,000 amount up there in line item 141.
So it's included in that. Okay.
Yes, it is. Because you take the 10,560 that's in there for salary plus her 30,000.
Right.
You got 40,560 times 7.65%. You're looking at, well, we got a little more than that in there. You're looking at 3,102. So I may have a little more in Social Security than what we need. Because this 4230, he just copied over last year. If you recall, that was Tim's salary and it was at 40, 33 something, I think. And we've decreased it down to 30,000.
Have you got all this? I know they've made a lot of changes. Do you have any questions? Speak up. Because you're the one's going to be putting these numbers in, I assume.
I don't have any questions other than, Brita, if you can send me like the breakdown of the general of that 34,000, like I got the police department, but
Okay.
you've also got, I mean, did you do salaries increase in public safety?
The fire department?
Yes.
No, because we don't mess with,
Okay.
the only one that we would have an effect on would be the chief, Mark's salary.
Right.
The others, he sets himself.
Okay.
We don't do anything with it. And he lets us know when that changes.
Okay.
Am I right about that, Jerry?
You're correct, and we just changed their whole scale of pay. What was it early? Well, last year now. When we went from the per
Yes.
hour to or per call to per hour or vice versa.
Right.
So it seems like it's worked out pretty well. I sent Mark an email to ask him, were we still going to get the financial benefits from Macon County this next year? And I didn't hear back from him. So I'm assuming that that's all going to stay in play. I know Sumner County had some discussions, especially with their volunteer fire departments, of possibly cutting those budgets.
Do we want to do anything about the fire chief's salary? Y'all heard that little spiel that Meredith gave back several months ago. He's $700 a month right now.
You can ponder on that. All of you can ponder on that before your next meeting. Let's go back to talking about where we're going to meet. I just want to kind of touch base with that. We talked about it, and the board seems to be a little bit divided on this. And I just want to point out the governor has said that we can do Zoom meetings through the end of June. Okay, why don't we split the baby and do the work study on Zoom and have the regular council meeting on the 18th in the council chambers? And just be sure that we can get everybody spread out. I don't know what we're going to do about it. There's a lot of people that want to come in. They can't. We're going to have to limit the people that have access, because you got to still have the social distancing. That's just one. I mean, I know we talked about it, you never reached a decision. So I was just going to suggest, this is so easy to do for the work study, and then have the regular meeting when the budget. It's just good for us to all be in the same room on the budget. I think it's just, it's just good to be able to, to see the department heads and have that discussion if we can possibly do that in person. That's just an idea. It's your decision to make a difference to me, but that's just throwing it out there for you.
And the thing about it, with the regular meeting, we are going to have the public hearings because of the second reading with the tax rate and the budget. So
we may have to have, we may have to limit access into the meeting room. They have to stay outside and come in and speak, depending on how many people show up. Because we're still going to have some of these guidelines in place, no doubt, in June. It's not going to all be over by then. So that's just food for thought. I mean, I understand that the desire to get back in the council chamber, but it seems like it's more important for the regular meeting on the budget and the public hearing than it would be for the study session. So maybe we can sort of split the baby and, do the study session on Zoom. I'm happy to do it. And then have the regular meeting on the 18th, assuming nothing changes, assuming the numbers don't get worse. And we had a lot of new cases in Tennessee today. It was a pretty big spike over the last few days. So, but assuming nothing goes really wrong, that would be my suggestion.
And I like that idea.
Sounds good to me.
I don't have no problem with that.
I'm good.
Okay, so Keisha, put everything on the Facebook pages and post it at our normal posting places, that our June 4th meeting will be on Zoom once again. And it'll be not only our regular work study, but we will continue work on the budget.
And is that, Mayor, is that meeting gonna be at 6 because it's the work study?
I think it would be good because 4 o'clock creates a lot of problems for everybody. Like Keisha was in class today, so she was really running to try to be able to get there before. And I'm not sure if you're still having meetings from 3 to 4, but I think 6 would be a good time.
Well, the other thing I have is we passed a resolution changing the regular meetings to 4 o'clock. So if we're gonna meet a regular meeting on June 18th, do we want to leave that at 4 o'clock or change that back to 7?
Okay, so June,
That was your
the resolution, I think, said until the end of the crisis, or ever how it was worded. So if we're
not
still,
gonna be over
if
by
we're still
June.
in crisis, I mean, it's up to the council.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there because there'd be some uncertainty about it, you know? What do you think?
I thought it said until the end, until, as long as we were doing them by Zoom, it would be at 4. As long as we were doing a virtual meeting, it would be at 4.
I thought that's how it was worded also, Ms. Carter. I thought it was worded, but it may not have been. I'd have to go back and look at the resolution.
Somebody make a motion to add this. Well, you're already out of your regular meeting now, so you can't vote now, but why don't we go with that, Mayor? If everybody's comfortable with that, everybody nod your head if you're okay with that.
Yes.
4 o'clock. Okay, 4 o'clock.
Wait a minute. No, Jerry, not 4, 6.
7.
Huh?
The regular meetings were at 7.
Oh, I thought we was talking about the work study, so.
No, the work study,
at 4?
The last work study we did at 6.
We had a special call meeting at 5 and then started it at 6.
Yeah.
So.
Mayor, send out a notice when the meetings are going to be. Everybody's going to show up. I promise you.
Okay. Well, thank everybody for their participation tonight.
Wait a minute. What did we do? Was we going to address Mark, the fire chief?
I think we're going to wait on that.
I guess we'll get him at the work study.
Yeah, I think that's what we can do.
That's what we should do.
Do that.
Okay. All right, Keisha, I will get these numbers to you. I can't get them to you tomorrow. I'm going to be out of socket tomorrow. But what about Monday?
We're off Monday.
Holiday.
Well, you need to come in and work.
Yes,
Then-
ma'am.
Would it be Tuesday then? Would that that'll give plenty of time?
Is anybody going out of town this weekend?
Huh?
I said, is anybody going out of town this weekend? It's a holiday weekend. I don't know where you'd go, but
Not me.
Bill, you going out of town?
Plan on it.
Good.
I ain't
good.
seen grandkids in 6 months.
Oh, wow. That'd be great.
Well, everyone, appreciate your attention and details tonight, and all that we've accomplished. And John, thank you for taking care of that end of it for us again. So you saved me a phone call to you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Everybody have a good weekend. Enjoy those.
Wait a minute. One more thing.
Yep.
One more thing. Jerry, you did say give her the numbers on the dollar increase. Is that correct?
That's what I would do.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Everybody said.
Okay.
I'm glad you was here with us, Mr. Bradley, to help us get through that.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Yep, you too.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.